Disclaimer. The hosts of this podcast, Timothy Patrick and Will Foley, are by no means medical professionals. However, having lived experience with mental illness themselves, they have gained useful perspectives on common mental health issues that some of us struggle to overcome on a daily basis. By sharing their stories, they hope to create connection. By creating connection, they hope to help you find your purpose. And through purpose, we can all begin to build the foundation for positive mental health. This is Above Ground Podcast.
Hey everybody, TPP here. Just quick note, as soon as these episodes for the DBT sessions ends, sadly that will be the end of Above Ground Podcast. But just as every chapter ends, a new one begins. TPP will be starting a new mental health podcast called Pieces to Wellness. And Pieces to Wellness will be airing very soon, so stay on the lookout. Keep an eye out for Pieces to Wellness, and thank you for listening.
Coming at you live with real conversations about mental health from the perspective, it's time for Above Ground Podcast. Now your hosts, TPP and Will Foley. But as we all know, it's very hard to not tend to your garden.
Right. Wicked garden.
Yeah, that's a wicked garden, all right. And then you'll be dead and bloated before you know it.
So V is vacation. Give yourself a brief vacation. And it doesn't necessarily mean to go out and go to a Caribbean island or wherever. You can go to a motel room and just relax, get away from the world, get away from your emails, get away from work. Even just going upstairs or downstairs or wherever into your room and get in your bed and pull up your covers and throw a TV on if you need to. Just it says vacation because of the V, but I think it's like a timeout, a breather. So I think those are necessary, even though we are adults. Quote. And the last is E, encouragement. Cheerlead for yourself. Repeat over and over. I can stand it. This won't last forever. I will make it out of this. I am doing the best I can.
Yeah. It's very difficult to put into practice, though, if you don't practice it daily.
Yeah. And again, any of this stuff is. You have to have a willingness for it. You have to be open and use radical acceptance and say, this is what I'm going to do because this is why. No half smile, no half-hearted. Go at it. You can start small. Just because you're going at it wholeheartedly doesn't mean you have to take on a plethora of these. Just start with one.
That's right. You can only eat a piece of cake one bite at a time.
Right. Another thing you can do is make a list of pros and cons. Focus on some goals. Again, pros and cons, positive, negatives. Just make a list and write down whatever you need to write down in the list to kind of keep sort of a journal, I guess you could say, right?
Yeah, and not to get freaked out by the word journal, because I know for someone like me who writes a lot of stuff, a lot of just thoughts down and, just ideas for this or that, the other thing. When it comes to keeping a journal, I wish I had better discipline of keeping a journal, but the word journal and just that daily activity puts a lot of stress on, just because then you start thinking, well, why didn't I write in it today? And why didn't I? It's like, yeah.
So another, what you said before is mindfulness. It's a good chunk of distress tolerance. And, there's a little guideline here for accepting reality and awareness exercises. I'm just going to read a few of these, but this one I'm going to read just because I've had a pleasant experience with this recently, and it's kind of weird, I guess. But I'm going to read some of this.
Okay.
Being aware of the connection to the universe. And this can be practiced at any time, any place. Focus on an object, floor, ground, air molecules, a chair, armrest. Consider kindness and, look for some gratitude within yourself. Just a sense of being connected or loved or cared for. These things will all kind of swarm like butterflies, like monarch butterflies.
That's a good description. Energy is like a monarch butterflies. Oh my gosh, I can't speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the more energy that you put into positive stuff, the more it comes back. And and we actually, when we sat down tonight, we actually had a perfect example of it because I got turned on to this book by Denise Lynn called Native Spirit, and Tim and I had been talking because Tim had sent me a text with a picture because he had been doing the Native Spirit Oracle cards, and I was like, wow, I got to check that out. And my wife bought me the book Kindling Your Native Spirit because
Nice.
I had a trip to the ER last week, and my distress tolerance wasn't working very well, and to be quite honest with you, I thought I was having a fucking heart attack. And it turns out that I have had a cardiac event at some point in my life. We don't know where because there's a little damage in the heart muscle, but turned out that in reality I was having one whopper of a panic attack because it felt like I was gonna die. And I said to Tim that I was interested in getting those oracle cards, and when I walked into our sessions tonight, there they were sitting on the table. So I thank Tim. Thank you.
Thank the universe.
Thank the universe. So the universe does work. You just have to trust it, and trust is a tough thing.
And there's this little piece here is Palo Santo.
Palo Santo.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to look that up because
Yeah.
I do not know what it is.
Yeah, I don't really either. But
That's
you burn it, and there's like cleansing involved.
that
and
is
stuff like
awesome.
that.
Yeah, and I need to cleanse out some energy.
That'll do it. So back to some awareness. Awareness while breathing. Awareness washing the dishes. Cleaning the house. Anything you're doing, if you're making tea, just be aware of that. You're making tea, make tea. A few things that are related to distress tolerance, but I'm not going to really get involved in these little things, but radical acceptance. One of my favorite lines is, acceptance is the only way out of hell. Because it's really, it says it all. Like, you don't really need to say anything more,
That's right. Men eat hearty. For tonight we dine in hell.
That's right. Pain creates suffering only when you refuse to accept the pain.
Yeah, well, that's what being sober does.
So the next is turning the mind. Making a commitment. Acceptance of reality as it is requires an act of choice. It is like coming to a fork in the road. You have to turn your mind towards the acceptance road and away from the rejecting reality road. And it takes some diligence to stay on that path. You have to turn your mind in that direction and stay focused and make a commitment. Just if you have to continuously make a commitment to yourself, then continuously make a commitment to yourself. Because, it's your life, so you have to decide. No one can decide for you.
No. Everything is a choice.
Yes.
And now, also, if you make a choice to eat a cookie instead of a piece of celery, don't beat up your psyche over it. Just make a better choice the next time. And for people who like to beat themselves up, who find it easier to beat themselves up, then don't. It's a it's a lifelong practice to try and not beat yourself up over.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to do that kind of nonsense. But, if you can single out, if you can stop and realize what situation you're in and what we'll say the problem is and what it details and who is involved and what's happening and how is it happening, all that stuff, you can make a list and describe the problem and then figure out how it's interfering with your goals. And maybe it's not even interfering with it. Maybe it's just something that you're perceiving it to interfere, and in reality it's not. So you can continue on your path, and just by again paying attention, and hopefully using some of these skills that we listed. There's a few I just want to run off real quick.
Do what you got to do, man. We have no time limit on this. We're just running. We're running.
All right. These are some stress relievers. I'm not going to elaborate on them. I'm just going to say get active, meditate, laugh, connect, assert yourself, try yoga. Let's see, sleep. Oh, look at this, journal.
There you go.
Get musical. Seek counsel.
Yeah, that's something I need to do again.
See that? All this is the universe talking to you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Hey, Will, look at me. So yeah, that's hopefully that can help you understand some distress tolerance, a little bit, and some stuff to relieve some stress, blow bubbles, take a walk, play with your dog, play with a child that, if maybe not yours or maybe it's next door's, whatever, paint a picture, smile. If you're by yourself, you can make a list of things that you want to do within that day, or a list of goals you can, that you want to achieve in the next week or month, whatever it may be. Take a bubble bath, any of that stuff is it's self-care. At the end of the day, this is all self-care stuff.
Yeah, don't get trampled under the sole of another man's shoes.
Trampled underfoot. Yeah, so that's
mighty Led Zeppelin.
That is distress tolerance.
So, do you have a, I'll say, and not literally, but if you can put, if you could pick 2 or 3 of these to put together into a song, like, do you have like 2 or 3 of these that you use together? Like, you'll start here and then it'll just progress into this one and then it'll smooth into that one. Like
of the modules themselves?
No, for the distress tolerance skills, like.
I mean, usually for me, it's always music. It's like 5 senses, whether it's listening to music, sometimes watching a movie, sometimes throwing the diffuser on and throwing some oils in there and getting the house smelling lovely. That's usually what pops into my head. Are those are the things,
I know when I'm on path that if I get up at 4:15, go downstairs and try to sit on the cushion, even if it's only for 5 or 10 minutes, and it's been really spotty. And then if I go from that into, say, some stretching like Qigong 8 brocades, and then what happens is I may sit down and start reading, and then that actually prompts the next thing. Because what I'm starting to learn is that doing something is helping because it's leading to doing more. Right, and it leads to something more. There you go. And I've noticed that the universe has been putting those prompts in my path, and the dude abides when the dude feels like abiding, and it's, trying to get the dude to abide is, that's a whole other ball of wax, man. That's a big candle you gotta burn if you're gonna put that wax in there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, that's good. I like that.
But
And
I do know that one action begets the next action. And unfortunately, as we know, one bad action or one bad spot in your routine, and I know for me, I get, if I get off the fucking rails, I'm off the rails, man. I'm like, I might have a night where I decide that I'm going to stop at the store, buy a 6-pack, and that 6-pack leads into, me.
So it works both ways for you.
Yeah. But I also know.
Interesting.
I've also learned that I have that type of personality where the bad habits are really, really easy to lock into because you're into that. You just want to numb out. And it's always been about numbing out. And unfortunately, like as a child, your survival mechanism was maybe to, yes everybody to death and, try to please everybody and just suck your feelings in so deep that every once in a while you would have to just scream to let them out, but you didn't have any skills to let them out all the time. So it's almost like that pressure valve where, or in the tea kettle, you keep that tea kettle stuck, man, that it's going to burn you or it's going to blow up. And, it needs that release on the top. So if you don't ever learn how to have that release, and then you learn by habit, and then the people who are around you only have that pressure valve that blows and doesn't let out pressure slowly, it becomes a pattern. And I know my pattern is if I start getting sucked into the negative pattern, then it's very easy to get sucked into the negative pattern all the way around.
Sure. Right. I get what you're saying.
But it's very hard to climb out of. And I notice that every time I get sucked into that negative pattern, it becomes harder to get out at times. And it's almost easier to eat better than it is to go to the doctor when you don't eat better and stick a pill in your mouth.
Well, sure.
And that goes for anything, whether it's,
I mean, I think that, I hate to use the word, this is the way it's meant to be, but I mean, that's more natural doing it that way.
Well, it is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
it's like
you
people
also
do all this negative things and then, they're eating garbage and they're drinking poison, and then they're like, geez, why do I feel like this? And then they go to a doctor to try and help. It's like,
well, we have the sick model of medicine in this country, as a lot of Oriental medicine doctors will say.
Sure.
That we have the sick model here in the Western world. They would much rather, because it makes money.
Right.
Because
they
that's
want
what
to
it's
keep
about.
us sick because that's what's
right. It
making them
propagates.
money.
It keeps propagating the system, man. It's just everything becomes a cycle.
Control.
It's all a cycle. It's all about control. It's always been about control. Control the masses by giving them just enough, and then you shove a foot in their face and you kick them in the teeth. But that's what we're doing here. We're kicking stigma in the teeth because we're talking about this shit.
Right.
And we're talking in a real way that we're just like you, man. We know all the facades and the nice little dangly things that they stick in front of you
It's like
that
those,
you fall into.
Think of those fish, angler fish.
Oh,
they got
yeah,
that little
yeah.
and we're like, oh, look at that.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, we're on the hook, man, and the
And
fish
I think
is coming.
that actually, that within itself creates the whole anxiety state in people. You know what I mean? Because then you're like, well, I went for this dangly thing that looked awesome, and it was this glow, and I would just gravitate towards it, but then, boof, something bad happened.
Yeah, and you ignore everything in your body telling you not to.
Right. So then you're like, the next time you do it, you're like, ooh, I see that thing there, and it looks so awesome. I want to get close to it, but and then boom. Then it happens, you're like, by the third time, you're like, I'm not going to go near that thing.
Yeah, my 20s were spent that way. I went after dangly things, and I got chewed up and spit out in a lot of ways, by a lot of different people. And... and it's all my fault because I let it.
Well,
because that's the thing. You have to, if you are going to actually have radical acceptance, you have to accept that you have a fault in it.
Sure.
Because that's what karma is. Karma isn't, if you do something bad to somebody, karma is, if you do something bad to somebody, something bad is going to happen to you.
Well, it's funny because I'm just... Oh, I didn't write it down. I think I wrote it down somewhere, but I was listening to a podcast, and they explained karma. Or no, you know what? It may have been in the book that I was reading. I can't remember.
Was it a
Buddhist book? It was a Buddhist book.
Yeah, because I had to rethink what karma was when I started to learn about it.
Because they said that most people think that karma is this, and it really isn't.
No, it's not. It's a completely opposite thing. It's that whatever you do will affect you, whether it's positive or negative. And that's the thing about the universe and energy and stuff. That's why, not to get on the soapbox of, anti this or, whatever that, because I'm not here to try to convert anybody to what I believe in, because we're all on a journey, man, and it's your job. That's what we were put on this planet to do. Our planet, our the reason we're here is to make this place a little better. We're not here to suck all its resources out. We're not here to spit shit and kick everybody in the head. It's not.
And just make as much money as possible. And,
right. Right. Because all the things that are actually worth doing don't pay shit. Just look at jobs in the human services field. And a lot of them, unless you've got a lot of schooling behind you and hundreds of $1,000s worth of debt, don't pay anything. And it's meant because we have that stigma of weakness that has been, because we have to be macho and we have to be tough and we're Americans, man. Rah, rah, rah. Yeah, fuck that, man. That's bullshit. Total bullshit. You want to talk about a scam, and that's what happens though. And you start identifying that way, and then it's hard to handle emotions because you don't know how to handle them because you've stuffed them in, and you're like, your way of handling emotions might be down in a fifth of Jack Daniels on the weekend, or it might be blowing your brains out with railing your brains out, I should say, or worse. I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I get it.
And it's...
No, you're right. And that's, again, what hopefully we can decrease this whole stigma and the way that society puts these rules and regulations on people and things, because a lot of people react the way society wants them to react, or to the way that they think society wants them to react, which is
absolutely
hornswoggle.
Yeah, we all got hornswoggled. We
all got bamboozled.
we got bamboozled. We did get bamboozled.
But you know what? We don't have to stay bamboozled.
But I will say this though: when you're on the merry-go-round and you've believed the hype for so long and bought into it, bought into the facade, because it's really just a facade. Because it's not a mirror. It's because they don't want you to look into yourself, because if you look into yourself, you'll start to realize that it's all bullshit. It is. It's all lies, and it's all lies made to fit you into a sheepish paradigm that once you start to peel the layers of the onion away and start to realize, well, why is this way? But why do you tell me it's this way when it's really not? And it really, if you've questioned your entire foundation, as we talk about foundations all the time, because like we've talked about and Tim said, if you have a foundation that you tried to build on too soon, where the concrete wasn't set or it wasn't poured correctly, or
there's a crack
in it, and it becomes a crack that can literally sink your house, man. So but the problem is though, if you don't look at why you believe certain things, or why, and and you start to and you don't question certain things, and you take everything at face value, which is very easy to do because we don't want to think that somebody is saying something to somebody because they want a certain result. It's because they, but they also don't know any better.
Right.
And, and I think we really are finding that out in society now that, that we've, the real work is to work on yourself.
Sure. That's the hard work, that I think that's why people
so
don't do it, because it's easy not to do it.
Well, it's very, very hard.
How easy is it to just sit on that merry-go-round, especially when you're enjoying it, and then sooner or later you're going around like 5 times, someone else is going to foot the bill and put that quarter in, and you can just ride it around for free. Who's going to get off?
Yeah, well, you're right.
That's what happens.
Yeah, well, if you may, right. Well, and that's the human condition of we want things to be easy, and unfortunately, it's when
things
you want
aren't
things.
Easy.
Right, things aren't
that's
easy.
The facts.
Right, that's the
things
reality.
Aren't easy.
Things aren't
Life
easy.
Isn't easy. As soon as you can have some radical acceptance towards that, that's when the suffering will decrease, and
I think that's
the happiness will.
I think that's the takeaway for the week, man. Radical acceptance will smash your distress tolerance. Or I'm not stressed.
I'm like, wait.
No, will help you smash those plateaus of
right.
being able to of being able to I can't speak now. That's what happens.
Some pursue happiness and some create happiness.
And happiness isn't a pursuit. You have to create happiness.
Make your path happiness.
That's right. And, watch The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith. That is one intense movie, man.
Sure is.
One intense movie.
Well, that was a fancy episode.
It was a fancy episode.
Thanks to my co-host, Will.
Thank you to my co-host, Timothy, and our engineer, Will Hallam.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you, sir. Yo, we're going to be out in a second. So for this week, we appreciate everything. Don't forget, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Find us on Facebook at Above Ground Podcast. It's all small letters all together because it's not about us. It's about the entirety of everything. And, there's no preconceived notions here, man. We're not here to get, we're here to let. So, let your freak flag fly, let your light shine bright, and until next week, we say, be well,
be safe,
be above.